We may have just seen the biggest overpay of all time, Branden.
Did we? I think we
We
did.
maybe in the history of we might have. The history of professional sports. We're back. It's Deferred Collusion. It's me, Jesse Rowe, with Branden Bollinger. Brando, how you doing? First off, before we get into this, I just want to say, Branden, I respect and admire you for showing up today. I know you're feeling under the weather. You're not feeling good. You've got the flu, but you would never miss an episode of Deferred Collusion. So nothing but respect, brother.
Jesse, it is always a pleasure to be here. This is our baby, right? Aside from my actual child, This is my little baby, right? Our Deferred Collusion baby. But I got sick working the old blue collar, brought it home, got mama and my baby sick. So we've been fighting the flu this weekend, but man, there was some news that helped.
You know what happened, Branden? I'm sorry. You know what happened?
What happened, dude?
You saw Juan Soto getting $765 million, and it made you sick to your stomach. It made you physically ill.
Dude, the only thing higher than my fever was that fucking AAV, dude, that guy is getting. Oh, my God. It was crazy, Jess. 765.
I know.
Has an opportunity to top out at over 800 mil. That's what's crazy about this contract. I mean,
no.
Dude.
Branden, it is an $800 million contract. That's what people are missing. It is an $800 million contract.
Jesse, I mean, you guys heard me talk about this in past episodes. I really thought this was going to be a Boston swoops in. I thought the number was going to be in the sixes, maybe top out around 7. But yeah, we
did a whole episode about how the Dodgers made a $600 million offer, and we were like, do you think this offer gets up to the sixes? Boy, we were way off, bro.
Dude, I mean, people were telling us there's no way the Dodgers offered him 6. That's fake news. Whoop-de-whoop. Sure wasn't. But I don't think anybody expected Uncle Stevie coming over the top rope with that 765, dude. My God. Jess, what are the exact deets on that contract? Hit me with them real quick.
Yeah, so look, it's the biggest contract in sports history. It's bigger than Shohei Ohtani's in terms of overall money. So because of the fact that none of this money is deferred, by the way. He's not deferring a penny of this contract. So he's getting everything paid in full at the time of payment. Because he's getting paid in full, this contract is worth $300 million more than Shohei Ohtani's contract in terms of present day value. And what that means is that because Shohei is deferring money over 20 years, by the time that Shohei is being done, paid out his $700 million, Soto's 765 will be worth $300 million more than what Shohei's. That is... In no world should Juan Soto be getting paid a dime more than Shohei Ohtani, let alone $300 million more. This is the overpay of the century. It includes a $75 million signing bonus. And to the point about how this is an $800 million contract, it includes a 5-year opt-out. So after 5 years, Juan Soto can opt out if he wants to. The Mets can void that opt-out by paying him an extra $5 million a year for the remaining 10 years, giving him an extra $50 million, meaning Juan Soto will opt out after 5 years, Steve Cohen will void the opt-out, and this will be an $805 or $815 million contract.
That's just the spiciest meatball. As a guy that's always rooting for, the working guy to get their pay, this feels cool, right? Like, we watched Soto turn down for something in Washington a few years ago, and everybody was like, this guy's a fucking idiot, right? And then we see him go to San Diego, and it's like, oh, they're going to win the World Series, run through the West, blah, 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 and then it didn't happen. And you heard people kind of saying, oh, Soto's a me guy. He's not a team guy. He's a get him out of here, right? Well, big trade happens. He ends up in New York. And what happens? He ends up finishing 3rd in the MVP and goes to the World Series. You know what I mean? Say what you will. Obviously, it didn't end up the way Yankees fans wanted, how anybody in New York wanted, I guess, unless you're a Mets fan. But it was all in all a good trade, right? Soto held up his end of the bargain. But boy, did he really hold up to his word, right? He's like, hey, I want to test free agency. Let's not forget, Mookie Betts wanted to do the same thing, leaving Boston. I do think that the whole COVID situation maybe influenced it a little bit. I do forget if COVID had hit before they signed the extension or not. But this is one of those rare examples when I think a league really shows what is most important, and that's experience, because Soto's been there, he's won a chip, did it as a teenager, and it's age, right? He's young. They want that age 26, 7, 8, 29 years. And it's like,
age has everything to do with this. Yeah.
What would Shohei have gotten if he would have hit free agency at 26? Are we talking about Billy?
Point. If Shohei had come over at like 22 or something, like his first couple of years, like forced the Nippon Ham Fighters to like send him over, then gets to free agency by the time he's like 27, 28, I think that even adds an extra few years. We're talking like a $900 million contract for Shohei. I genuinely think that's the case, but it would have been deferred, of course. So it still would have been less money than what Soto got here, which is still insane to think about.
And so, Jess, we're hearing a lot of fans from all over the league, just like when Shohei signed his contract, but I don't really want to compare them. I just kind of want to focus on one. But a lot of people saying it's not worth it, that this is the biggest overpay of all time. Jess, where do you land on that sentiment?
Okay. I think so. I want us to get into the blame game here about where the Yankees went wrong. Did they do anything wrong in this process to not land Soto? Because it seems like this was a Yankees-Mets bidding war at the end, right? Yeah. Dodgers were involved, Red Sox involved. There's reports that Toronto might have entered the mix, like at a high offer. But in terms of like financial might and how money was spent in this situation, because everybody's saying that, Uncle Stevie only outbid the Yankees by $5 million, right? No, he didn't. He outbid them by $50 million because he included that opt-out. Like, that opt-out is an extra $50 million for Juan Soto. The Yankees didn't come close to that. They landed at a hard $760, according to the reports. In my view, this is like the biggest use of fuck you money in the history of professional sports, and the only thing that rivals this is what they're doing over there in Saudi Arabia. When you consider them handing out like $200 million a year to Cristiano Ronaldo, or how they're prying away golfers for live golf away from the PGA Tour, how they're putting on boxing events over in Riyadh that like modern day boxing cannot match the amount of money that Turk al-Sheikh is giving to those fighters. They are the only thing that surpasses what Steve Cohen just did are those guys. And it's an unbelievable flex of financial might, and basically Steve Cohen saying, like, I would have gone further. Like, Steve Cohen would have been would have gone a lot higher, if you ask me. I don't think that this would have ever stopped. The Yankees were fucked from the very beginning, in my opinion. I don't think that they ever stood a chance.
Yeah, it did feel like Cohen made his mind up that this was his white whale, and it wasn't going to end up on anybody else's mantle. Jess, we heard some other little rumblings about grievances over the year for Soto.
Branden? I want to know who gets blame here before you move on. I don't know what you're about to say. Did the Yankees do anything wrong here? Because we're hearing stories about like how things went wrong on the Yankees side of things.
Well, yeah, to that point, I know people want to point at Hal and go like, well, you didn't open up the purse strings, da-da-da-da, you should have just gave him what you wanted. I do want to make a quick little notation. I was going to bring this up a little later. Hal Steinbrenner's net worth is around $1.2 billion. I believe John Fisher of the A's is over $2 billion. So just when we're talking about spending, let's keep this all in perspective, that the owner of the A's has a higher net worth than the owner of the Yankees. And the Yankees were trying to give this guy $760 million, right? So it's pretty astronomical money. But I think where the Yankees stumbled is that the Yankees have a lot of traditions, right? A lot of, things that kind of get in their own way, right? So we were talking a little bit yesterday about maybe a security guard that stopped Soto's family from coming into his suite. And now reading a little bit more about that, it seems that the Yankees were unwilling in their contract negotiations to give Soto and his family a suite at Yankee Stadium, where former captain Derek Jeter and current captain Aaron Judge have both paid for theirs. Steve Cohen heard about that and goes, "Hey, your family gets a suite at Citi Field." So when you start looking at it, there were these other little incentives that mattered to him, that mattered a lot to Soto. And whether that's a big sticking point or not, I don't think you blame the Yankees for it. But it does kind of seem like, hey, you're throwing the kid all the money in the world. Give him a fucking little sandbox. Who cares? Like, I don't know. It seems silly to me.
Like,
but I don't know that you can blame the Yankees. I don't know. Do you blame the Yankees? Is that the Yankee
No,
way
I
type
can't
shit?
blame the Yankees. They ponied up the money. It's hard to blame them, right?
I can't knock them. They made a $760 million offer. That's unreal.
Yeah, they did what they could do, but I genuinely think they saw the writing on the wall where it was like every time they upped the bid, the Mets upped it, and then it got to a point, like you said, you're getting close to the guy's net worth. You know?
Yeah, dude.
But with this contract, and it's like, man, how far are we willing to go here? Stevie Cohen just really, like, not all money is the same, and that's some different money. That dude's been investigated by the SEC, you know what I mean? And he's trying to he's got that kind of money, and I'm just wondering, are we entering a territory? Do you feel any differently about Juan Soto after this? By the way, do you feel like he was genuinely chasing the money, or he just wanted out of Yankee land? Like would he have ever taken a contract from the Yankees that would have satisfied him?
I think short answer yes. Long answer no, because I think that the Yankees, yes, could have offered him everything he wanted. I'm sure they did. But if you have somebody else going like, I'll match that and I'll give you a little bit extra, what are they not giving you that you want?
Yeah.
A suite? Okay. $5 million in a suite gets this done. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And I just think that's the difference of having, like you said, different kind of money has different hard limits. And even though we're all at that no limits table, we all got an old lady to report back to, of some sort.
No matter how much money you have, there's always somebody with more. And, like when we talk about Cohen is $21 billion, you talk about those Saudi guys, they have money that is like, you don't put those on the books. You don't put that money on the books. There is so much money over there. It's a number that we don't even know exists. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's how much it is. It is beyond trillions that we'll never fully comprehend. Like, whoever you think the richest guy in the world is, Elon Musk, he ain't the richest guy in the world. Like, let's just be real. It is those guys over in Saudi Arabia. But
yeah, dude, they're pulling out literal, like, tons of oil per minute.
Yeah.
To the tune of like hundreds of millions of dollars. Literally, like a minute. A minute.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
That was true.
It's
I know.
Fucking nuts.
Yeah.
But
is it setting does this set any sort of dangerous precedent though? Because a lot of people were saying the Dodgers ruining baseball with their contracts and their deferrals and everything. This is a little bit different only because it's a massive overpay that like nobody else could have even come close to matching other than like two teams. Like, so do you think this is gonna set like a precedent for like a new CBA, salary floor, salary cap? I don't want to go too long into it, but it kind of I've been seeing some rumblings of that.
While I don't know about a salary cap, I do hope there is a salary floor. Whether this is the impetus for it or not, I don't know, because it is such a rare commodity, right? This Soto contract, that I don't know that it's going to change every contract afterwards. But I do think it's going to have some ramifications on the remaining big free agents this season. So I guess actually, yeah, I could. I think there will be some dominoes falling, and I don't. Again, I don't think it like prohibits all small teams from any big contract. Like, I don't think Luis Severino should be the biggest A's contract ever. At $63 million. When you're receiving hundreds of millions from revenue sharing. you know? So I think that if
Yeah.
there's revenue sharing, there should be some sort of salary floor to ensure that even the worst teams are reinvesting into themselves to help ensure a higher quality product league wide, which brings up all ships, you know, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. But I think more than anything, this is like Steve Cohen's announcement that fans have sort of been waiting for since he bought the team and he brought in
Definitely.
Stearns. You know, because this is whether it sets a precedent or not of, oh, we're going to change some things in the CBA and we're going to set some financial barriers on teams, maybe because they literally created a tax for this guy. You know, they knew this day was coming. They created the tax for this guy. This is Uncle Stevie and the Mets basically saying, hey, we're not taking over. We're not the daddies of New York. We're not Big Brother, but like we're not little brother anymore. You know, we're twin brother in New York essentially. And this is the only time I can ever remember in history where the Yankees had a guy in-house that they were doing everything they could to keep and they weren't able to do it.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest moment. This might be like the biggest moment in baseball history in terms of like just the power shift and how the public perceives the power dynamic in the league versus just how New York sees the Yankees against the Mets now.
Yeah.
It's like the Yankees might never be able to compete with this sort of financial might. They might never be able to.
Jess, let me ask you something real quick. What would it take the Yankees to take some of that momentum back? What kind of offseason would they need to have this year to try and take some of that territory that has been lost back? You know, like I agree with you. I do feel like the Mets have kind of taken New York right now, right? I mean, feel like a far cry away from the LOL Mets. You know, now we got these oh my God Mets, but we're just one twisted ankle away on Juan Soto from going, oh fuck, curse the Mets are back. You know?
Yeah, I mean the Yankees are probably panicking a little bit. I mean, I think that the panic might have subsided by now. It probably was a little bit of like a grieving period for like maybe 12 hours, 24 hours of like, oh fuck, we lost him. But they have to pivot, and I mean, there are options out there available for them that I think the American League, as crazy as it sounds, I think Soto actually is taking the harder road to a World Series, and which is kind of respectable in a way because you got to go against the Phillies, you got to go up against the Braves, you got the Dodgers, you got the Padres. You have a gauntlet to go through in the National League right now. In the American League, it's kind of wide open, and I don't think that the Yankees are by any means like out of it. I think their lineup stinks right now. Like it stinks. They have to get some bats in there. Arenado is a potential trade candidate, so I know that Nolan Arenado is in there. That makes a lot of sense for them. Cody Bellinger makes a ton of sense for them. So they could go the trade route there. They could sign guys like Bregman, which I don't know if they'd ever want to do that, but you'd have to pay him at least 7 years probably.
Yeah.
Sign guys like Alonso, but like, would you take the Mets sloppy seconds? I saw John Boy using that take, so I'm going to steal it. Just you take the guy that they lost. That seems a little desperate.
I really feel like the Yankees are going Christian Walker.
Corbin Burns, Max Fried. Go ahead. What?
No. I was going to say Christian Walker feels like a slam dunk for the Yankees to me. But I don't hate the idea of them going after a trade for Cody Bellinger, maybe Michael Bush, grabbing those two guys from the Cubs.
Here's what I think they should do. They should try to sign Max Fried or Corbin Burns and go after the pitching.
I think Corbin Burns looks like a Yankee, dude. I think Corbin Burns
That's where the
like
talent is right now in free agency. That's where the best talent is, top tier. And then you could maybe trade like Luis Gil out of your rotation and then get like a bigger impact bat. That might be the best option that they have available to them right now because it's just kind of a bleak situation in terms of getting good offense.
Jesse, I just had this thought come to mind. Well, what if the Yankees kind of stood pat on maybe a first baseman this year, got another corner outfielder and waited for Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s free agency, which is 1 year away.
Like a very good possibility, if you ask me.
If there's any player that I think is seen his AAV skyrocket because of this Soto contract, I think it's Vladdy Guerrero Jr. Do you think he's going to be our first $500-600 million contract? I mean, what is he going to pull?
I mean, he's going to get the biggest first baseman contract of all time, no question about it. And
you heard it here first.
He's young, dude. He's 26. I think he's like 25, 26. He's also very young.
I think he's
going to get over 10 years, and I think you're going to see the Yankees definitely in on him. That's going to make a ton of sense. I will say that I just lost my train of thought there for a second.
Dude, I hate when that happens.
I'm spinning a million miles a minute here. Long story short, they're in a tough spot. I could see them really going after. I know Dodger fans aren't going to want to hear it. I could see them going after Teoscar now because I think that they have a desperate need for that. But what I think is happening with all these other free agents, I think their values just went up after the Soto deal because teams like the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, everybody in on Soto, they're going to be a little bit more desperate now to sign some teams. Like I could see the Blue Jays giving Bregman like an 8-year deal now. You know, I could see that happening. So.
I really see Boston in play for Bregman, dude. Teaming up with his old boy Cora.
Yeah, well, they'd have to move Devers over to first, which there has been talk of. There is talk of moving him over. So there's a lot of things happening here. But in terms of how this affects the Dodgers, the Dodgers were in on Soto. I think the biggest way it impacts them is Teoscar because I do want Dodger fans to be somewhat prepared for this because we're a little short on time. We're going to have to rush through these final topics. We have to be a little prepared for Teoscar to walk and go to another team because it looks like he's trying to get 4 or 5 years potentially, and I think the Dodgers want to limit it at 3 and maybe just raise the AAV. I think that's what they're comfortable with, and I think Teoscar's looking for that more long-term deal, and I just don't know. We have Zaire Hope in the pipeline. We have the catching prospect, I'm blanking on his fucking name.
Diego
right
Cartaya or
no. Dalton Rushing. Dalton Rushing.
That's
we
right.
have him.
That's right.
Yeah, he could play some
he's
first base when
older.
Freddie's gone in a few years. He could play left field if we need him to. He's also a backup catcher. So Dodgers have some backup options available that they're relying on, and they just signed Michael Conforto to a 1-year deal. Quick reaction to that: $17 million.
My first reaction is, we were talking about players' contracts being impacted by Soto, and I guess Miguel Conforto's a $17 billion man now. Fuck it. Shoot it.
Yeah, I think that he has some interesting splits. I know his home splits were pretty tough, but his road splits were good.
Yeah.
Really good against right-handed pitching. I think this is just flexibility for the Dodgers. I don't think it affects the Teoscar signing in any way. I just think it's like backup. It's basically our new Jason Hayward. That's kind of what it is. And they're just adding some bench depth, which I think is smart. It's very good quality bench depth.
Speaking of the San Francisco Giants, they just signed their largest contract ever. Willy Adames on a 7-year, $182 million. Buster Posey going out there getting a guy. Jess, does this help you take the Giants seriously in the NL West?
I think they have a couple other moves to make, but I mean, hey, they are playing in the pool that they can play from, right? They're dipping their feet in the end of the pool that they can. They're like in the mid section of the pool. They can't go to the deep end, but they're fishing from a medium sized pond, so to speak. And I mean, good for them. Good for Willy Adames getting paid, basically getting that Dansby Swanson contract, which kind of makes sense.
Whoa, you're right.
I think yeah, basically the same contract. I think he's going to have a tough time in that ballpark, if I'm honest. It's a big ballpark. I see
his homers are going to go down, but I bet you them doubles are going to soar.
But dude, that left side of the infield with Adames and Chapman.
Chapman is fire. Yeah.
That's a pretty good left side of the infield, so I like it. I think they should be heavily in on starting pitching. They should go after Burns or Fried for sure, and because they lost Snell, which is obviously a huge loss. So they're going to have,
and they're going to be paying him, I think, $17 million next year.
They're going to also really rely on the grandson of the wind to take a step forward. He had a tough rookie season, so I think. Yeah, so they're going to need him to take a step forward. But I like what the Giants are doing. I think that they're probably a year away or a couple players away. But I like that they're trying, and I think that they're setting a good example of teams that are sort of that can't maybe spend with the Dodgers, but they can spend against the Dodgers a little bit.
Yeah.
I think is the right way to put it. Speaking of Dodgers. You didn't think Blake Treinen wasn't coming back for another couple seasons, right? Dodgers
Come on,
re-signed.
dude. You
Dodgers
know that guy
re-signed
wants to go
Big
to the
Maga,
White House.
Blake
Dude.
Treinen. The American
You know he's
hero
going
Blake
back.
Treinen. 2 years,
I love this
$22 million.
signing.
Dave
Love
Roberts
it.
went out to that mound in the 8th inning of World Series Game 5, and he said, "Hey, buddy, strike out Anthony Rizzo. We're going to reward you with $22 million. What do you think about that?"
I love
and
it,
that's
dude.
exactly what happened.
I love it. You know, we've gotten a few years of Blake now, and we've really seen him go through it, right? We've seen him be dominant. We've seen him dealt with injuries, have to go back to the minors, miss almost 2 full years, and then came back and gave us the gutsiest performance to close out a World Series, and just was nails for us the whole playoff run. Blake, I love you to death. I remember watching him what season was it? Was it 2019 when he was just the best closer in the world for the A's? I forget what season it was, but dude, I remember watching.
Yeah, it was 2019. You're right.
Just going like, oh my God. And then Dodgers signed, like, whoa, dude. And just, I don't know. He's added that other sweeper now, right? So the ball's going on either side of the plate, right, left hand. It's incredible. I saw a cool little clip of him talking about Vesia and him, how he first met Vesia in 21. And his like arm was bugging him, and he was taking a day off. And Vesia comes and is like, "Oh, it's Widow Boyke's arm gonna fall off or something." And he's like, dude, like, just gonna fucking kill this
Treinen's
guy.
like, dude, I'm like 35-year-old. Is that 35? He's 38 now, by the way. So we are getting him in like the later part. But yeah, you gotta love it. I hope that this is I think the Dodgers do 2 years with guys like this because they know that there's always like that possibility the arm is going to flare up and we're going to need him the season after, which is smart. So good for Blake Treinen. So happy to have you back. And last one of the day before we go, it was just announced yesterday by Dodgers GM Branden that Mookie Betts will be the starting shortstop for the Dodgers in 2025. I had seen reports that he was going to be the second baseman, which I was very happy about. And I thought that was also sort of like a little bit of fodder to put out there because they were in on Soto. So there was just those reports come out. They get planted to sort of like leverage in free agency and things like that. They signed Tommy Edman as a shortstop, as a shortstop option. They signed Miguel Rojas. So I was like, oh, okay, we have our shortstop taken care of in case we don't get Adames. So no problem. Well, no, Mookie Betts is the shortstop. What do you think?
I think what it means, I don't know if I'm getting a little too much into the deferred collusion aspect of this. I think what it means is that we're on a little bit of borrowed time for my guy Gavin Lux over at second base. I think it sounds like they're going to give him maybe the first half or the first few months to shine at second before maybe moving him. Like you said, there are some obvious. There's a lot of options for that shortstop spot with Miggy Rowe, Tommy Edman. Yet to be seen if Kike or Chris Taylor or any of these guys, these super utility guys, come back. You still got Muncy over at third. So it's like, how much time is Rojas going to be at third versus short? It's yet to be seen. But I don't know. Maybe a second season now at short proves that Mookie is a good fit there. And whatever. I'm not too worried about it. Mookie was smashing the ball, playing shortstop, making some fucking terrible plays. But no, I don't know. I'm interested.
He still plays serviceable at short, and this time he's not going to get thrown into shortstop. You're mentioning Gavin Lux. The reason why he had to do that is because Gavin had the fucking yips. To start the year, he couldn't play shortstop, so the Dodgers had to move him over, and they didn't have an option because Rojas was injured. So Mookie went over and started playing some short. This time he'll have a full off season to work on it and a full spring training to work on it. So that'll be a little bit different vibes going into the season in that regard. And I think you're right about Lux. This is basically saying, hey, Gavin Lux, we're giving you another chance. You had your full season after your ACL tear. now it's time for you to really step up and prove that you can be an everyday player in this league. Otherwise, we might be trading you for, somebody.
Parts.
Who knows? But
Yeah.
anyways,
For some
I'm
former first-round draft pick that's, been in the minors for 6 years that is about to throw 102 in the fucking playoffs for us. But, Jess, I know we got to go, but right before we do, I wanted to touch on one thing. City of Champions, Los Angeles, the LA Galaxy, MLS,
yeah.
Cup champs, dude. We did it. But
Well
the
done.
reason why I want to bring up a little European football on our baseball pod is that I want to give a big shout out to LA Galaxy fans boycotting a terrible ownership out in LA. Had to make some big changes, and boy, did it work. One season after getting a terrible ownership group off of your fucking team, you guys win the cup, dude? You telling me boycotts can work? John Fisher,
Oakland,
dude.
hey, wait.
Take a look at what could happen to your beloved franchise if you just step away, dude. You're fucking sinking the ship. It can work. I'm just saying, I don't know, Jess. We saw a lot of people going, this is what Oakland gets. They don't even show up to their fucking games. Well, dude, same thing happened in LA. Except they fucking yanked the ownership out and got some people in that gave a damn, that wanted to make some changes. And look what happens. You put a product on the field that wins, and oh my God, you're selling out games because you are a competitive team. Who would have thought? Jess,
So what you're saying is,
go for it.
So what you're saying is that Luis Severino is about to lead the Sacramento A's to their first World Series in franchise history.
Yep, that John Fisher is obviously
Congratulations
watching.
to the 2025 Sacramento A's.
John Fisher, big fan of our podcast. We know that. And look, take a look around MLS for signs of hope. You guys are playing in the same size stadiums, dude. So whatever.
Love it. Love it. Well, this has been a good episode. We're cutting it a little bit short. I have somewhere to be. Brando, feel better. I thank you so much for joining me. While you're not feeling under the weather, but you know what? I know you feel better already just getting all this off your chest. So
you know what, Jess? I had to get a lot of this
brother.
pent up Soto phlegm out, so it feels really good. And like always, guys, thank you so much for being with us. We started this in March, so it's been a cool little ride to get this growing and see you guys in the comments and all that fun stuff. Please check us out on whichever social media platform you prefer, whether it's TikTok, Instagram. You want to check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, and always
audio
right
only
here
friendly
on
versions, guys.
YouTube.
Yep.
This is Deferred Collusion. That's my partner in life, in crime, in baseball. That's Jesse Rowe, the king of Crespi. I'm Branden
Blake's
Bullringer.
Treinen sweepers, baby.
We love you.